Hi everyone, welcome to another Stop and Chat episode. This time we have Mo Tongmool, who leads business development at ZEAM. With a diverse team of over 30 people, ZEAM collaborates with some of the major brands around the world to attract the next generation of customers and talent. Mo brings a rich background in psychology, focusing on leadership, organizational culture, and storytelling. We're looking forward to delving into how Zim's innovative approach is shaping the future of work and engaging with Gen Z. Welcome, Mo.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for the nice introduction.
Mo, this is like the future of work. It's the next major demographic that companies need to cater for, both from a talent perspective, but also from a business and commercial perspective. But we hear often that it's a different generation in terms of how they work, how they perceive the challenges of a job, and love to learn more about this. Like, what are the key differences in how Gen Z approaches work and career compared to previous generations, and how can companies adapt to these differences to attract and retain talent?
That's a great question, Pedro. I think to get that difference it's very important to first of all define the term generation, and a generation is defined by the common shared background and experiences that a certain group of age has. So if we're talking about Gen Z, and for example, in our definitions, we're talking about the generation that was born 1995 2010, and of course, to be clear from the beginning, a generation is not defined by some sudden change of genetics. So nothing happened with our personality, or does happen with our personality every 15 years. It's about the background we look at. So Gen Z, the term Gen Z, is just a word that helps to look at a certain time period. So if we talk about Generation Z, we want to look at the happenings in this time that influences a certain generation, right? And here, the key things that we look at, especially if we talk about new work, is for one the changes in the market of employees and employers. For the first time in our history, there's more people going out of the job market than entering it. What does it mean? It means that there's a power shift happening, right? So back then, in the generations of our parents, the companies could determine the scope or the frame of work. This changed now for a few years, so people can, as employee, demand more. So what happens is actually Gen Z demands more human things. So what happens is the shift from employee to a more human workforce. So I think if we look at the numbers, Gen Z is very loud and vocal about it. But what they're asking for is something every human likes. For example, freedom, right? Flexibility. If you talk about remote, it's a choice. It's about doing what's possible, and especially not being. I don't want decisions to be made by other people if it's not relevant to my work. For example, where I work from. As soon as I can deliver, it doesn't matter what I do. So I think what changes in is very relevant for the conversation today is that people become more human, and that they want to be more self-determined. Maybe a last little fact: if we look at our numbers and studies of Gen Z and other generations, you can see, for example, 55% of Gen Z wants flexible work. Now, and everybody's like, oh, Gen Z is so loud and they want everything. Now, if we look at millennials and the two generations before us, it's even higher than us. So what Gen Z wants, the two generations before us wants as well. The only generation that actually differs from that are the boomers. And now we can guess what generation has the most managers in big companies. Um, it's rather boomers, right? And I think that's why this topic is very relevant. The decision makers differentiate from the needs of the key generations of the employees they're looking for.
You went right into my next question, which is exactly how can companies bring effective strategies to bridge the gap between Generation Z and established company leaders, managers as you mentioned, like a lot of these are boomers. How can companies bridge this gap?
If we talk about that topic, there's actually two dimensions you have to look at. One thing is culture, and one thing is structure. So, if we talk about structure, is about the structural elements that actually make it happen. So, for example, you use digitalization to offer the things like remote working, right? You looked at the services given that compliance is possible, that your office works is or that you have AI integration, anything that is structural, so you can actually meet the expectation of a new generation. But before that, before the structure part, the culture part has to be right. And the culture part, we talk in a first step about the same understanding of humans. So, of course, if a generation or the decision maker has the understanding of workers, that they are, if you have the image that humans or people that work have to be patronized and controlled, um, this is a very difficult understanding, or a very difficult base to actually improve your structural part, because you will be, but what if they don't work? If they're not working in the office, what if they don't deliver because I can't see them, especially, etc., etc. And I think first of all, if you want to bridge the gap, you have to create a common understanding that people can be motivated to actually work, if empowered. And I think this means breaking up the hierarchy inside of a company. And I think this is a very important first step.
You have a background in psychology and you work in leadership. You also did some work around organizational culture. What psychological constructs do you believe are crucial for understanding and engaging Gen Z in the workplace?
I think one of the most common concepts I use for our leadership workshops is based in the motivational theory of psychology. It's very influenced by Decky and Ryan. I can recommend anybody to read into it. And there's one effect, it's called the overjustification effect. And what they basically did, to have it very simply, I don't remember what activity it was, but they looked at activities of children when they were doing something that they really liked. For example, let's take an example, playing the guitar. Now imagine, Pedro, you're 5 years old, you play the guitar, and now I come to you and I say, okay, you played 2 hours of the guitar, now I'm paying you $40 for it, right? What they observed was that Pedro, the little kid, started to play less and less time the guitar, even though you were paid for it. So I think instinctively you would think, hey, now you like to play the guitar, now you get even paid, you should even play more. But this was not what happened. I think that is called the overjustification effect. What happens was that you felt like you've lost the control. It wasn't now motivated by yourself, but by an external factor. And I like to use the concept because if you look at how we treat people, we say, okay, I give you that, this is the profit, this is the salary. If we look at the even educational system, in Switzerland we have the grades 1 to 6. 6 is great, 4 is suffice, and the rest is not good. Imagine we go to class for years and everybody tells you, you are good, you're smart, you're not, you're insufficient. And this is um, all examples of over justifications, because it's external reasons to do something. So if we look at how we are built, we shift away of being motivated internally, intrinsically. That's the right term, intrinsically. And I think if we look at the market, where we can see that the people shift to become more human as a workforce, we have to understand what's human and how we can motivate them. And that is intrinsic motivation, is maximizing actually the output of what people can give. And I think for people that want to reach Gen Z and want to bring that, they will have to really work with empowering people, giving them leadership, giving them ownership and agency about of two things they can decide by themselves, or even integrate or integrate them in decision makings, for example.
This connects also well to your first point around freedom and flexibility, which I think
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
quite relevant for to have this impact around motivation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, looking ahead, looking at the future, what trends do you see in the work culture, especially regarding remote work, the growing of gig economy,
Mhm.
and the interaction of this generation with this new way, especially as you mentioned, around freedom, flexibility, agency, owning their own work.
Yeah.
How do you see these impacting and growing in the economy?
I mean, I'm not the first one to say it, but the world moves fast. Everything connects and disconnects fast, and I think that also is going to happen for companies. I think it will be more expertise based work, and like people will be more working together, project based internationally. Everything is more connected. Everything is less committed. If we're being honest, and I think this is going to have an impact on the world, which not only has to be bad. I think companies have just to let go of their old views of the world too and see, okay, what can they use for themselves. So a person that switches doesn't only switch away, there are people switching to you too, and they bring expertise from other companies, from other branches as well. And I think like if you working on your own structures in your company that make that allow these things to happen, you can benefit very much from that. So, for example, to make it more specific, we look at companies in the western of Switzerland where they, instead of having one internship at their own company, they put themselves together with other companies to have a rotation system where people can go into other companies. So they benefit from other branches and companies' knowledge, and these people are not being controlled, right? So this is, for example, a sharing economy principle of workforce. And I think also, for example, if we look at people becoming parents, for example, me, I'm now traditionally I'm a man, and we've been taught other role models, but I want to be a father. So if you would be my boss, I would say, hey, um, I'm having a child in 6 months, for example. Then your question would be, hey, how much do you want to work afterwards, and not when are you coming back fully, right? So this is a different relationship you will have to build with the workers, and if you can offer that, I think people will be internally grateful and loyal also to you.
To follow on to this, do you see companies already evolving fast into this, or do you still see a huge lag in how the companies are approaching this generation?
I mean, it's nothing unusual, but corporates um, obviously are slower. Like they have more running structures that are very difficult to process. So they will on the surface change slowly. For example, offering remote systems. I think these are things that are working on, or like AI integration. I think they know that if, for example, look at Gen Alpha, not even Gen Z, people that grow up with AI, the whole educational phase, and then they come here and imagine you would say, yeah, it's not compliance technically possible. You can't use AI. You're going to lose any talent that's coming. So these things happen a bit faster. But I think the more challenging thing that we observe, especially with corporates, is the cultural part. They're actually treating workforce as human force, and actually trusting, because we often hear like, yeah, but how would I give them ownership? They're quite lazy. They would never do that, especially etc. So on. I think there will be a longer process for the cultural part. Yeah, but in younger companies, startups, of course, they will use their flexibility, the fastness they have to move ahead of other companies. That's for sure.
Thanks, Mo. It was super nice having you on our Stop and Chat episode. I think, in summary, it goes back to bringing flexibility, freedom, agency, and companies having to adapt to these new generations, because it's not only Gen Z, as you mentioned, Gen Alpha, AI coming on board as well. So companies needing to adapt fast to changing dynamics, maybe potentially faster than what we've seen in the past. Um, Thank you for sharing your experience with us and helping us bridging the gap to generation Z. How
Thank,
how you have shared.
thank you too, Pedro and Chris. It's been very fun.